Hey everybody, welcome. It's HBCU football Friday night. It is a special edition. We have championship games going on. We have elimination games, and we have two gentlemen here who have two very different ideas when it comes to fashion. You have Wilton Jackson. This guy, he's got the blazer. He's got the little flower going there. He just looks well put together. And, and then there's me. I'm just sitting here in a hoodie. But shout out to my daughter's school. Basketball season started. I'm repping for the family here.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I'm sure you had a little something you wanted to slide in there. Go ahead.
Usually I'll come on in a hoodie just like you, but today I just decided to switch it up a little bit.
That's good, man. We got contrasting styles here. That is good. That is good. We're going to have some contrasting styles out on the field this weekend, Wilton. Let's jump in this thing, man. There is no MEAC Championship game, but the MEAC Championship game is this weekend. Because if North Carolina Central wins on the road at Howard, it is a wrap. They will win the MEAC. Howard has to beat Central today, and they have to hope that Central, will run into some trouble as well beyond this game. So what do you think, man? Howard stumbled last weekend at South Carolina State. Do you give them a shot this weekend?
Tyler, I give them the shot, but I just don't think they're going to get it done. Like you're talking about a North Carolina Central team, we've seen all season that they've pretty much dominated HBCU football, and they showcased why they're the best team in HBCU football. They've had wins over Morgan State, that close win over Morgan State that most people thought they may have lost that game. They've gotten some big wins over some CAA teams like Campbell and Elon. And, now this is no discredit to the work that Larry Scott is doing with the Bison's program. But I just think that Trey Oliver's squad is they're just primed for another championship. And it all starts with Davius Richard, right? So we've seen him. Obviously, he's thrown over 1,400 yards this season, 14 touchdowns. He's also a threat on the ground, which is no secret. We've seen him do that since he's been at North Carolina Central. And I just really think that even if he's unable to connect with any of his receivers, obviously he can beat you on the ground. I just think that that's going to be too much for Howard. And of course, we all know what Central's rushing attack led by Latrell Mookie Collier. Anytime the play needs to be made, he's the one to do it. And I just really think that Central is going to get this win. I wouldn't necessarily say it would be a blowout against Howard, but I definitely think they're going to get the win. And the reason I say it won't be a blowout is because Howard has his own set of dynamic playmakers as well. You're talking about a Quinn Williams, dynamic quarterback. He's essentially been the face for them on offense this year. And then they have obviously the running backs, Eden James, Ian Wheeler, Jared Hunter, impact players that have been, very impactful for the Bison this season. So I definitely think that the Eagles defense must be on one accord at all times to make sure that any of those three players don't break off for a big play. But I definitely have North Carolina Central winning this game.
We've had no drama in the MEAC at all this year. It would be nice to have some. It's been a year-long coronation party for North Carolina Central, and kudos to them. They have definitely earned it. No one has given it to them. But as a fan, I would like to see a little drama. So if Howard just makes things interesting, Central can still win it. Just make it interesting, Howard.
There's a possibility they can make it interesting, but, like I said, I just think it comes down to, let's say they make it, interesting in the first half, or maybe even the first half in a couple minutes of the third quarter. But I just see Central pulling away in the second half and essentially I guess you could say the de facto MEAC championship there.
Oh, yeah. This is the MEAC championship game. Howard has to get it done if they want to make it. So we will see. It's going to be a good one. Howard has the potential to be a good one, at least. Howard has the home field advantage in this one. But North Carolina Central is pretty confident in their DC fan base and alumni there. So we'll see. Will Green Stadium be burgundy or, will it be that blue and red there of Howard? So that's the deal for Saturday over in the MEAC. Let's go over to the SWAC, Wilton, where there are a couple of different scenarios going on. We're going to have a Sunday game. Actually have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday action in the SWAC all 3 days of the weekend. But things are going to end on Sunday with people wondering, will Alcorn State get one step closer to the finish line in the SWAC West? They have Texas Southern. That game goes from Saturday to Sunday because of the Houston, what are they, the Dynamo, the
Yes.
Yeah, the Major League Soccer there. They got playoffs, so there was a conflict with the venue. So that's going to be on Sunday. Not much at stake for Texas Southern outside of playing a bit of spoiler. Alcorn State to lose the division at this point, Wilton, they're going to have to stumble for the next 2 weeks.
Tolly, on paper, it looks like you said Alcorn would have to stumble, but let's not forget what happened last season. I can remember I want to say, I can't remember exactly when these two teams played, but I remember penciling in this game as a win for Alcorn last season, and it didn't happen that way. Texas Southern got the win. Andrew Body, obviously quarterback played for them last season. He won't be much of a factor in this game, but this is a Texas Southern team. The record doesn't show it, but they play tough every single game. They just played Jackson State tough. You're talking about a 7-win team in the SWAC this season. So, this is not going to be just a pushover game. Alcorn is going to have to come out and do what it's done within these last couple games. You're talking about an Alcorn team that's led by Aaron Allen, the quarterback. He's essentially the face of their offense. He's been the guy. He's been able to make plays for Alcorn when they've needed it. This is an Alcorn team that, obviously you think about years before they moved into the SWAC West. This was a team that was always competing for the SWAC East and competing for SWAC Championship. So this, honestly, if they get this win, this would be their first time, essentially, with all the implications, if it goes this way, competing for potentially a SWAC title from the Western Division. And I think they have all the parts to do so. And outside of Aaron Allen, what he's been able to do, the impact player I've also been kind of harping on all season after him is obviously running back Jarvion Howard. Started slow a little bit this season. I know Coach mentioned on the SWAC coaches call this week about how Howard had to kind of not necessarily take a step back, but just not try to do too much, but do his part. And I think you've seen that over the last couple of weeks. He's kind of just, done what he's done best. When his number is called, he's making plays out of the backfield. The one thing I really, really like about him is the fact that his ability to catch the football inside of the backfield and make plays in the passing game as well. So I definitely think that he could be on pace to have his third 100-yard performance on the ground this season and could potentially make some plays in the passing game. And then also, as far as Alcorn's defense, limiting Ladarius Owens. This is a very physical running back who is not scared of any physical punishment by no means. And so Braves defense has to be on point in terms of being able to be prepared to stop him.
One of the things that you really have to give a lot of respect to Aaron Allen, there was a lot of loud whispers back in the summer that yes, Macon was going to come in and he was going to, usurp Aaron Allen, and then Allen was going to have to be the backup. And man, he fought for his job and not only kept it, but he thrived in it.
He did. I mean, like I said, in those first couple of weeks, those whispers started to get a little bit louder. But after that fourth game, I think maybe after that Prairie View game, he's essentially just taking his game to a new level. And so essentially, when everybody probably thought Alcorn was going to rely on the running game, which in most years, Jarvion Howard and any of the running backs they've had, it's always been usually rush first, pass second. But this year, it's been Aaron Allen, the Aaron Allen show, plus, of course, Jarvion Howard stepping in when he needs to be. And, of course, the Alcorn's defense. So I pretty much would predict them to win this game, predicated off those three factors.
So you got Prairie View and Southern. They're going to face off against one another. Prairie View does have the head-to-head matchup if it comes down to a tiebreaker with Alcorn State. Southern lost to Alcorn State pretty big last weekend. So you really look at this game, Southern would, if they were to win, they would really need some help. Prairie View just they need Alcorn to lose once, and they need to keep winning. This game, Prairie View and Southern this weekend, really feels like a elimination type game between those two.
Tolly, you're absolutely right. And when you think about that, I guess you could pretty much say it's an elimination game. You're talking about a Prairie View team just a few weeks ago I was extremely high on in terms of them potentially winning the SWAC West crown and potentially playing in the SWAC championship game, which obviously that's not necessarily done for them yet. But considering that Southern has won 5 of the last 6 matchups between these two, I'm going to roll with Southern. And Southern is coming off a disappointing loss to Alcorn, and the Jaguars are at home. And so one thing about when Southern is playing at A.W. Mumford Stadium, it's hard to beat them there. It's really hard. I think about the game, even with FAMU beating them at Southern. that was a tough game for FAMU, but they won. I just don't see Southern coming off of a loss like they had against Alcorn and losing another one with the potential, SWAC West crown on the line. I think they get it done. I think they get it done with Harold Blood having a bounce back game. When I think about that, Blood is obviously the face in terms of the Jaguars offense. And typically and usually in a couple games that he's had this season, he's had some of his better games against some of the weaker opponents on the schedule with bad defenses. And when I think about the Panthers defense specifically in the passing game, it's not that strong. So I could easily see him coming back and having a strong performance that could help the Jaguars in this game. And then also, getting Kendrick Rhymes and Garrett Coors, get them going early in this game to help him in the passing game. But I think ultimately Southern gets this win.
I think with Blood, the key ingredient for him all season long has been limiting turnovers. He has good numbers offensively, but then when you look at those interceptions, you're like, oh, that number is high as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll have to watch that. Man, that's going to be a tough one there. Prairie View, Wilton, they have just been a team, man. It's just, it is peaks and valleys. Not rolling hills. It is peaks and valleys all season long with Prairie View.
I see that when I think of Prairie View, I think of a seesaw, like you just said, up and down. And in the way that I have a lot of respect for Trayvon Conley as a quarterback. But the thing is, and even the running backs that they have at Prairie View, right, and Ahmad Antoine, who pretty much, leads that rushing attack in that particular team. But I just feel like, there are games where Prairie View looks unstoppable. Trayvon Conley connecting with his receivers all over the field. Ahmad Antoine is running over people, getting downhill, getting, in between tackles and making plays. But then there are other times where their offense is just out of sync. And usually it starts when Trayvon Conley gets that pressure up front, and it just slows down everything. I really think that Prairie View goes as Trayvon Conley goes, and I think that if he struggles in this game, which I'm kind of expecting him to do, because I think that Southern's defensive front is going to get after him. I just really think that they're going to continue to struggle in this game, and it's going to bode well for Southern to get a win.
All right, it's HBCU Football Friday night. I'm Tolly Carr. He is Wilton Jackson. We have some championships here in the South decided over the weekend on Saturday in Atlanta. It's going to be the SIAC Championship. It's going to be Benedict, unbeaten so far this season. They are going to take on Albany State, a team that has won a championship before. New coach, new system. Quinn Gray has, moved some things around, but still kept them on the winning track. But boy, it's going to be a tough battle for them on Saturday, because Benedict has the best defense and the best offense in the league. There's no other way to slice those numbers, Wilton.
Tolly, when I think about this game, and I have respect for both coaches, even just the work that Coach Quinn Gray Sr. has done at Albany State. You're talking about an Albany State team. He's first year coach there. They've won a title before, but just, they had to pick up big wins against Miles and Fort Valley State in the last 2 weeks to even just get to this point. But when I look at Benedict, like Tolly, they're scary to a degree. Like, that defense is lethal. And I have to point out a few numbers, just when I think about what they've done. Like, only one team has scored more than 20 points against Benedict, and that was Miles. Benedict has only given up a league best 8.3 points per game. And they had 2 shutouts to start the season. Yeah,
I was going to say the math on their first 5 games, they only allowed like 13 points total. Like, yes. In 5 games, it was only a 13-point aggregate total. That's ridiculous.
It is. It's insane. And it's just that, when you factor in that defense, you're talking about players like Dedrick Starks, Jaden Broughton, Lubert Danellis, Joshua Barker, and Aaron Miller. They just get after opposing offenses, and they just make things really, really difficult, and they're physical. But aside from the defense, I look at the Tigers offense, looking at the quarterback play of Aeneas Dennis and the running back DeAndre Duhart. Dennis by himself alone is thrown for over 2,400 yards this season. He's third most touchdown passes in the SIAC. And while Albany State is going to give them, as much of a competition in this game, I just think that Benedict is going to get the win, but a lot of it is going to come to the fact that Albany State is not going to be able to probably move the ball like it has throughout the season.
It's going to be a tough one. One of the things that I'm really looking for, that game is going to be here in Atlanta and Wilton. People always talk about, man, you need more events in Atlanta. It is the HBCU alumni capital of the world. All those things are true. Saturday will be an opportunity for people to show up and let us see. It's going to be at the Lakewood facility, not a huge facility, but it's a perfect size for the SIAC Championship. Morehouse played their regular season games there last season when they were still getting their stadium renovations done. So it is a nice facility. It'll be great to see if Atlanta does in fact show up. We've had this like 80-degree weather all week in Atlanta, and I think on Saturday it's supposed to only get into the 50s. So we needed that weather to squeeze out another day or two, but that's still good football weather in November.
Right.
50, 55, you can, look, hoodie weather. Look, I'm trying to tell y'all, it's hoodie weather.
It's hoodie weather, right?
Yeah, man. Got your little pouch, put your hands in there. If your ears get cold, you got a built-in hat. I mean, whoever invented the hoodie, it was the perfect piece of merchandise. When you look at that game, Wilton, Albany State has a fighter's chance. I think the average betting person would put their money on Benedict. Benedict had a great season last year. Flamed out though in the NCAA postseason. This will be their second time around. If they win on Saturday, they probably go in as the number one seed. They're the number one seed in the region right now. That gives them a bye week, and they've kind of had that experience before. What would it mean for Benedict to be able to make a postseason run and try to establish themselves as not only a SIAC champion, but to contend for a national championship?
Oh, Tolly, it would be huge. It would be huge. And you talk about a Benedict program that has already, like you said, built a rapport as being a top dog, a juggernaut team in the SIAC. So being able to solidify yourself and potentially win a national championship, that's huge. And one thing that I'm always big on just in life in general, sometimes you need that experience, right? Like experience is the best teacher. Last year they get there, like you said, they flamed out. But as players, athletes, oftentimes when I've talked to them, sometimes that experience, you only need that one loss, couple losses sometimes that just don't sit well with you. And I can assure you, those players on that team from last year, they didn't expect to get put out in that first round. And so when you think about that, given the opportunity to go back if they win on Saturday, this is a team that will be motivated. This is a team that will be encouraged. And I think that this is a team that could potentially make a deep run in the tournament.
We have the CIAA championship as well. Simone and I have talked about that game. It's going to be Virginia Union, and they will take on Fayetteville State, the defending champion. So some more teams that are looking to contend and get some postseason berths there. So it's going to be a great championship Saturday for HBCUs, as well as the elimination type feel over in the MEAC and the SWAC. So getting closer and closer to December. We're going to have SWAC Championship. We're going to have Celebration Bowl. And just like that, the season is up. Wilton, I feel like this season has gone faster than any season I've ever felt.
I feel like we were just sitting in the studio talking about what happened in the MEAC SWAC Challenge and leading up to the Orange Blossom Classic. And that was like back in August. And it's like the middle of November, essentially. And like you said, it has gone by fast. But we've seen some really, really, really great football. We've seen some teams. We've seen some shocking teams. Like anytime I really think about HBCU football specifically, and I'm sure you can attest to what I'm about to say, talk about the play and the growth of Allen and what they've been able to do this season. You talk about a team that was essentially picked almost dead last in the conference, and look what they were able to do this season. And you just have to really give credit to their program and what they're building there. And I'm excited to see what they do next season.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get a facility. They've been playing at a high school. They used to practice at an elementary school. Like, they are literally getting it from the mud more than anyone. And there's a lot of programs in the HBCU space that have to get it from the mud. But if you can beat Allen's story, then come talk to me, because they have had quite the path to get to where they are. Definitely an exciting team over in the SIAC. You have any thoughts this is kind of bonus question. We didn't go over this in our prep, but we're going to have to get some coaches of the year here pretty soon. Who are some guys that have really stood out this year on the sidelines for you?
Well, obviously, I think for me, if you're talking about more so from the SWAC side, I think it's easy to give it to Willie Simmons. The last 2 years, he's only had one SWAC loss. Obviously, that was Jackson State, and those losses to Coach Deion Sanders. And looking at the body of work that he's been able to do this year, undefeated in the SWAC. Essentially, if they win the SWAC championship, I think you almost have to give him, not almost, you do have to give him the coach of the year. However, a very close second for me would be TC Taylor. Because you're talking about a Jackson State team. Obviously, Coach Prime took, a lot of the players away from Jackson State, having to restructure an entire roster. I can tell you right now, Tolly, most people didn't think Jackson State would be a 7-win team right now. Most people thought Jackson State, well, not most people, some people thought that Jackson State would have been anywhere between 0-4, 1-3, and 2-2 in their first 4 games.
Oh, ouch.
And I remember thinking to myself, Jackson State 0-4. I couldn't even fathom that. I'll be truthful to say that I had them somewhere between either 2-2 or 1-3, depending on how they started off in those first couple games. And I said to myself, 2-2 for me after seeing the first game or first 2 games, I said 2-2 would have been more realistic. But obviously, things were different. And shout out to what TC Taylor has been able to do, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And dealing with being that he's an alum that comes from a fan base that, you lose, you will hear it. Even if you win, you will hear it. I was about
to say, you can hear it in a win too.
Yeah, and so you have coaches like, I think of, some of the coaches that I saw as a kid, like Robert Hughes, who had multiple 7-4 seasons. And I can just remember as a kid, you know how when parents tell you, stay out of grown folks' business, and they would talk about, Jackson State, well, they would talk about different things, and I could overhear certain things like, well, they were 7-4. We should have been better. We should have beat Alabama State. We could have been competing for a SWAC title. Like we had Robert Kent as a quarterback.
Yeah, is that literally how they talk? Or was that impression spot on?
That was very spot on.
That kind of throaty voice you had there?
Yes, very much so. This is very authentic. So it's just like to see what he's been able to do with that team. I'm very proud of him and what he's been able to do at Jackson State. I like what Alabama State has done as well. Their defense, lethal defense. Coach is still getting the job done there. From the MEAC, I think Trey Oliver, man, like you thought they couldn't get any better than what they were, last year. Like, who would have thought that, the team and the program that he's building, he would be even better this year after what they did last year.
Yeah. A picture of consistency so far in Durham. He has provided a lot of stability to that program. Yes. When he took over, and it's been nothing but positive for Trey Oliver and the Eagles. Look, folks, next week on the show, Wilton Jackson talks about which coach is on the hot seat.
Hey, it might be some coaches on the hot seat. As a matter of fact, yeah, it probably will be some.
Hey, man, once we get to the end of the regular season, a lot of times that's when the real content begins. The discussion of football in the hypothetical realm is often more engaging for whatever reason. I just look at the data than the actual games that are played. So it is what it is. But there are some people that have been on the sidelines for a few years, kind of stuck in that purgatory position of win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And there'll be a lot of discussion going on in certain pockets around the country.
Absolutely.
Well, Wilton, we appreciate you, brother. I'm glad that I just, looked like a total slacker, allowed you to shine even more there.
Tolly, everybody knows you're the GOAT, man.
Oh, not for dressing. Ask my wife.
I think, but you know what? You clean up well, and I know you do, because you might have a hoodie on today, but when you and Nicole step out, like, you're always A1.
Man, we got 3 kids, man. I don't remember the last time we stepped out. That's why I bought clothes for everybody this week, except for who? Me. That's the life of a dad.
But I was about to say, but I bet your kids appreciate it.
I hope they better. They absolutely better. That's for sure. All right. He's Wilton Jackson. I'm Tolly Carr. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. HBCU Football Friday night. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week.